Today we're demystifying Fender's lines of modern guitars, both now and in the past, and we're going to give you guys hot takes on whether or not you should buy one. Is IkeGuitar? Let's do this. Fender as a brand has had many iterations in their lines of guitars over the years, okay? Way back from when they began in the 50s to the modern era of Fender guitars. And to be honest, the modern era is where I've had the most trouble deciding on whether or not I should buy a certain guitar or not. We've got Fender American Standards out there, we've got Fender American Deluxes, we've got Ultra Luxes now, but how those lines have evolved over time have been kind of convoluted, more than we'd like to admit. So I'm here to give you guys a short primer on Fender's lines of modern guitars, and then give you my hot takes on whether or not you should buy them. Now, I want to focus on two specific time periods: the 1995 to 2016 style Fender guitars, and then the everything after 2016, right? I say that because those are the years you're going to see the most guitars on Reverb being sold, right? There are so many guitars in the market from these time periods that it behooves me, as a kid who grew up in the 90s, to kind of talk about the guitars that would have saturated our music spaces growing up. Alright, so let's talk about the tiers first, alright? Now these tiers of guitar are an increase in quality and price, theoretically. Obviously, some features on some guitars are not going to be, as equivocal as others, or you may have a differing opinion on this. But the point is, the guitar that was kind of the main line, the main standard, so to speak, for Fender during the mid-90s into the mid to late 2010s was the Fender American Standard. Now here's my hot take on Fender American Standards. Don't buy them. No matter what you do, these are not the guitars to buy. I say that because it depends on when you bought the American Standard, alright? The 90s, the beginning of the American Standard line, they're not good. The poly finish wasn't exactly, dialed in at the time. And so you see a lot of 90s Fender American Standards prone to cracking in their finishes. The pickups sounded actually pretty good. I would recommend, if you're going to buy a Fender American Standard, you can just replace the pickups, but make sure you buy a year of Fender American Standard that actually had a decent finish on them. The mid-2000s, 2005 to 2007, that's when Fender began to produce quality finishes on their American Standard lines. Those are the ones I'd recommend going toward if you were to buy in that line. Now, most standards later on also came with hard shell cases. I don't know if that was always the case. I'm not a savant on Fender American Standard history, but don't expect to find one. It is so hard to find an American Standard with the original case nowadays. If you do, that's cool, but I'd say if you're going to buy one, aim for the $800 to $900 range for the Fender American Standards. Alright, now we have the Fender American Standard is our baseline for like that 90s 2016 style guitar. We have to have a tier behind and a tier above, right? So the tier behind is the American Special Stratocaster. So what was different about the American Specials is that they had custom shop Texas Special pickups, which they sounded pretty good. But if you want a more classic Stevie Ray Vaughan or Rory Gallagher tone, those would be the guitars to get for those pickups. They also had jumbo frets instead of, the medium frets that you see on American Fender Standards, but you can also get a gig bag with the American Specials. So I don't recommend getting one of these guitars. I don't like them personally. I look for a more modern taste in my American Fender style guitars. But if you like the classic sound of Stevie Ray Vaughan and don't want to buy an SRV Strat, which can be more expensive, get one of these, do a little mod. I think you might like it. Alright, now we come to the upper tier of Fender America's line. We have the Fender American Deluxe Stratocaster. Now, the Fender American Deluxe gets replaced eventually with the Fender American Elite. I'll talk more about that later, but the Fender American Deluxe Stratocaster is the step above the Fender American Standard. Typically, they came with hard shell cases. I've actually got an original one right here. So the American Fender Deluxes, I've actually got one in the Sienna Sunburst style, okay? These were made up until 2016 before they were replaced by the Fender American Elite series. But effectively, what Fender did with these guitars over the American Standard was they had a compound radius neck, which this neck feels great, okay? I'll review this guitar in more detail later. But they also added the noiseless pickups to their lineup, right? These were Gen 3 noiseless pickups and the S1 switching system. S1 switching just simply means that you press a button in the volume pot and then you have configurations of your pickups in series instead of parallel. It's an interesting tonal option, kind of overhyped and overplayed in my opinion, but the Fender American Deluxe is a great guitar if the pickups weren't just butt. Like, these noiseless pickups are absolutely terrible in my opinion. Now, that being said, this guitar plays, feels, and handles very well. It's got premium woods like an ash body with, the maple, and some had even rosewood before the whole rosewood import thing went haywire. But the point is that these guitars are solidly built, but the pickups sound absolutely terrible. If you want to hear what a terrible pickup sounds like, play a Fender American Deluxe with noiseless Gen 3 pickups. Absolutely balls. It sounds terrible. But now I move on to the 2016 on models, okay? So the American Special was replaced with the American Performer. Now the American Performer is a little different in the fact that it had Yosemite pickups and a grease bucket wiring system. I think this was a market improvement over the American Specials, and I really do think American Performers are actually pretty good guitars. Once again, the pickup system's kind of meh. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Fender's pickups and the Performers, but you can find Performers for about $1,000. Like, it's not hard to find a decent American Performer, and then all you'd have to do is replace the pick guard or the setup with the actual pickups you want, which in the end is kind of where I go with most of these Fender guitars. Sometimes modding it is the best option. I think the American Performer has a lot of great features, but if you remove the pickups and change them out for something great, you're going to love that guitar. It's amazing. Alright, so after the American Performer came the American Professional. The American Professional was the big jump from when Fender standards were discontinued in 2016. So the American Professionals are actually not great. Like, I don't like the American Professionals. I think you'll find that in 2017, 2018, Fender made a really quick switch from the Professionals to the Professional 2s because the Professionals were so bad. So if you find an American Professional guitar, stay away from them, okay? A lot of reasons. Not a great neck heel. The necks were terrible. The pickups were kind of meh. And you'll find that the American Professional 2s were phenomenally better in quality than the Pro 1s, okay? Just saying, that's why Fender reintroduced the Pro 2s so quickly. Going into the Pro 2s, they're the current lineup right now, so you can find them for $1,700 new on Fender's website, but the American Pro 2s you can find for $1,400. And let me just tell you, I cannot give Fender enough kudos for nailing the Professional 2. It's got a great neck contour, a great neck heel, and the pickups sound great. The Pro 2 is the Fender you want if you don't want to spend a crap ton of money buying the Fender Ultra or an American Fender Vintage Series guitar. These guitars are amazing. For $1,300 you can find one. You can even find them cheaper, honestly. There's a lot of them in the marketplace. You're not going to be disappointed with buying an American Pro 2. You're just not. They're great guitars. Everyone should have one in their arsenal until they can find a more custom shop option depending on their needs and choices. Alright, so after the American Professional guitars, then we went into our more higher end options. If you remember last time period, that 1990s section, we had the American Deluxe Fender, right? Now we get the American Elite Fender in 2016. Kind of like the American Pro 1, kind of short-lived, right? I liked the American Elite fine. It had Gen 4 noiseless pickups instead of the Gen 3s, which I think were way better. I will say though, the Elite guitars were quickly turned over when they moved out of Pro 1 land and into the Fender American Ultra series. So the Fender Elites can offer you Fender Ultra stylings and some things for a less of a price point. Because let's be honest, the Fender Elite Stratocasters and Teles were so nuanced and so quick to get discontinued that you can find them very inexpensively on the used market. So Fender Elites are great. You may want to think about changing out the pickups. I wasn't always a fan of the Gen 4 noiseless. I don't think the noiseless pickups got good until the Fender Ultra line, but we'll go into that one next. It's also an important caveat to note that the Fender Elite guitars were also kind of made in the mid-80s when Fender switched to Fujigen for their manufacturing in Japan. They were American, they went Japanese, discontinued in 87 I believe, and then brought back to life in 2016. Take it or leave it, just want to give you a little extra information out there. So that leads us into Fender's American Ultra line. So as far as Fender guitars are concerned, right, there are two lines that I love the most. The American Pro 2 and the American Fender Ultras. Man, I love the Ultras. I am all about a Fender Ultra guitar. I especially love what they did with their Telecasters during this time. I love the Texas T Fender American Ultra Telecaster. Now, the only difference between the Ultra and the Ultra Luxe, which was announced like a couple years ago, is that the Ultra Luxe has stainless steel frets, right? Those are the only really major difference between the two lines of guitars. The Ultra is by far my favorite Fender guitar in the lineup, okay? They're great playing, they're great feeling. The new noiseless pups, the newest ones we have out right now, are super good. Like, I love, Fender nailed their design with their noiseless pickups for this generation. It just sounds super, super good to me. Obviously, everyone's going to be different, but if you're going to pick between two Fender lineups, in my humble opinion, the Fender American Ultra and the Fender American Professional 2s. They're guitars that can't be beat. I love them a lot. Alright, so after that, it's all kind of cake, right? We have the American Vintage Series. It just gets more expensive from there. But these are the three main Fender lines that have been kind of twisted and turned and evolved into what we have today, from the 1990s up and until now. So when you're going to buy a guitar on Reverb, you can have some knowledge on what these guitars are, where they stand in the lineup, and whether or not it's worth the price. I would argue, once again, anything before 2016, I kind of stay away from. I like what Fender has right now. But if you're looking for a very reasonable workhorse instrument that you wouldn't be afraid of modding, buying something like a Fender Deluxe or the right Fender American Standard can really prove beneficial in your guitar searching journey. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. I make videos all the time. It was a lot of fun doing the research for this one. Hopefully it clears up some cloudiness about Fender's lineups over the years and gives you guys a better way of finding out what guitar is best for you. Once again, if you liked it, let me know down below what you think about the video. I want to know what guitar you would buy from these 6 or 7 guitars. I look forward to seeing you next time on the next episode of IkeGuitar.